I'm really excited about being here, and I hope that you are too. I know this is maybe the toughest slot after lunch on day 3, but I have to tell you that I'm very envious about the adventure that you're heading into for the fall. How exciting to have the devices that you have for yourself, and more importantly, the students to have the devices. On your table, this is not from me, this is from your leaders here at Cincinnati Public. You have a social media policy for district employees, and it's a draft, but they asked me to distribute this to you during the session today. So there should be extras, and they're kind of all floating around the table. You can look for one of those. Okay, so we're here today to talk about digital tools for learning. And I think this is the most exciting time to be a teacher because there's a vast amount of wonderful resources out there for you to use. And we have a very small amount of time, and I'm going to try and pack in as much as I possibly can. Some of the things we're just going to look at, just briefly look at and move on to something else. And some of the things we'll actually dig in and use. Okay, so what I did was I built a website for you. And I'm going to show you how to get to that website. If you go to your CoLab site, and let me go ahead and pop into that. If you go into your CoLab site, the top part is blue, and then it kind of goes to gray. Where it turns to gray, that first link to integrating technology into the classroom, Dr. Ellen Madden, that's me. And then it says view. If you click on that, you'll go to the site that I had up as you walked into the room, the cross-curricular digital tools. So I'll wait a moment and let everybody get there. So here's how this is organized. The main page, the home page, contains links to cross-curricular tools. So these are tools that you could use in any content area. And I've divided them into research tools, thinking and planning tools, and composing and creating tools, because we do those things in all content areas. And then over to the left, you've got a menu that has English language arts, math, science, and social studies. And under that menu, I have placed subject-specific tools for you to look at. Is everybody? Not able to get that. Okay, let's go back. So we're looking at the, from your CoLab page, maybe I went a step too much. So when your home page, let me get back to your home page. So your home page looks like this, right? And then your CoLab home page.
Some people said changed and then they reset it out there after they signed up for an email with the Google.
Okay. So we have some people that are going to be helping with the technology, and so if you're yeah, okay, good. So our technology help person, so if you're not able to get in through Google anymore, they should be able to help you with that. I think what happened is in the interest of kind of protecting your work area, which is a good thing to do, they've made it so that you need to be logged in to your Google account to actually see, otherwise it will tell you that it's restricted. And so, you know, that's to really kind of put a garden wall around your community, and that makes sense, but you'll just have to remember that you need to be logged into Google to use it. Okay, so you'll just raise your hand if you're having trouble with that.
Here, go to Tech Integration.
Exactly. If you go to Tech Integration from here, then you'll see a list of links. So I'm going to go to Tech Integration. And then you've got some files that they've loaded for you, okay? And then where it turns gray near the bottom, that very first one, linked to integrating technology in the classroom. If you click on View, you'll open up my site. Oops, I didn't want to edit that. And then it should look like this. It's the link to integrating technology into the classroom. So right where, your page is blue on top and where it turns gray, it's the first link under there, and you have to click on the view. Now, one of the things that we did notice, you got a little stylus and with your device, and we did find that with some of these links, it's hard to be precise with your finger, so you might want to try to use your stylus. That's entirely up to you. You certainly can pinch and make your viewing area a little bit larger, but it's easy to get lost with a lot of links. Okay. Yes. Are you on this page? Okay, you're okay. So right here, can you see where my mouse is? That little button that says view. It'll turn to a hand. And it kind of sounds like the TV show The View, didn't it? Click on the view.
Since we're going to late start your sessions, we extended to 1:15.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Okay, you're stuck with me till 1:15. We got an extension on our session. Okay. All right. So one of the things I want to show you, and because we've got the wireless network only has so much capacity for all of us eager downloaders to do a lot at once. I'm going to demonstrate this for you and ask you not to do the download right now because it's just going to cause us to bog down. Okay, but one of the tools that you have on your devices, and students will have access to this tool as well, is called OneNote. Has anybody used OneNote? Okay, wonderful. We've got a couple people. So tell me if you agree or disagree. It's kind of like an electronic 3-ring binder. It allows you to create tabs just like you would put in a binder and to put material inside of those tabs. But the material is not limited to what you could do with paper pencil. You can put multimedia elements in it. So students can record notes while they're in class. We can put videos, we can put links to websites, we can put images inside of it. Students can draw inside of OneNote. So it's a really, really nice tool for them to organize their learning. So some teachers are using OneNote as a way to introduce a unit. So you might say you're launching a new unit in science and you're going to create a notebook file just for that unit, and you've got all the sections created for students, and you've done some advanced organizing for them by putting in some placeholders for notes, and it's a really, really nice way to help them organize their work. So I want to show you what I had created for us for today, but we're not going to use it in the interest of time. Okay, you've got a link to OneNote in that first column, and then there's a link to the notebook file. Okay, and the cool thing about OneNote is that we can use it online, and so I could make changes to my OneNote file online, and they would be synchronized to my OneNote folder on my computer. Okay, or I can open this in OneNote, and then I'll have the full capacity of OneNote by using it resident on my computer. So we could make available through a link to our students a notebook file, and then they could open it on their own devices. And so because we've organized this into research and investigation, thinking and planning, composing and creating, and then an area for teaching ideas, you can see that I've got these tabs. Okay, so, and I've put a couple different multimedia elements in there. There's a link to the Glogster example. In thinking and planning, I've got a illustration on there. Okay, and in research and investigation, I think I've got a link to a video in there. So you can start to seed these notebooks with some multimedia elements and then invite students to add elements as they continue through the unit. So that's one tool that anybody, no matter what content area you're in, could use. All right, so I'm going to close this file, and I'm going to actually close this too, and go back to the site. So you've got on the home page of the website that I created for you a link to Microsoft OneNote. Also on your co-teaching, your CoLab website, there is a document called OneNote instructions that gives you kind of a step-by-step for setting up a OneNote file. But it's a really versatile tool, and I encourage you to look at that and think about showing that to your students and sharing it with them. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about these three categories: research and investigation, thinking and planning, and composing and creating. But before we do that, I want to invite you to go to your subject area over on the left. Go ahead and select that. I'm going to be adventurous. I'm an English language arts teacher, but I'm going to select social studies for today. And what you have is a collection of links. I teach pre-service teachers at Northern Kentucky University, and I also work with teachers in the graduate program in instructional computer technology. And over the years, I've kind of collected websites that I think are really great in different content areas. And so what I've done is put a collection, and I made it a small collection, but I guarantee you that everything I put in there has been carefully juried, and it's a good place for you to go. Everybody should have as their top link Inspiring Middle School Literacy. Okay, there's one for social studies, one for science, one for mathematics, and one for ELA. So let's look at that one together, and then I'm going to invite you to explore some of the other sites for a few moments. Okay, this site was created with funding support from the Walmart Foundation, and PBS is the author of the site. So you recognize PBS as a solid resource for educational materials. It will probably ask you to create an account at some point, but it is a free account. And when you go into your topic area, if you scroll down, you're going to see some lessons. Now these are designed to be for blended learning, and they're designed to be self-paced. That doesn't mean if you find some really great resources that you couldn't use them for whole group instruction, but if you're looking for a way to kind of enter the realm of blended learning and have students working at their own pace on some good lessons that have been aligned to national standards, then this is a good place to begin. So I'm going to go into Building the Pyramids of Ancient Egypt, which I know to be an area of study in 7th grade. Typically it is anyway. And when you do that, you're going to see, if you scroll down, you'll see first the launch, and that's the lesson that students will see if you assign this to them. The link to the PBS site is going to be the top link in your content area. Yes, yes. And you might have English or science or math, but it's all kind of arranged the same way. So you don't have to look at Building the Pyramids. I'm just using that as an example. Okay, so we have a lesson that we can launch, but before we do that, if you scroll down, you'll see a tab for support materials, and there's a teacher guide that goes with this, okay, which you can open up, but do that at a later time. And then there's also your alignment to national standards, and you're going to see standards for history under social studies, and then you're also going to see the link to the literacy standards, all right, because all of these are going to be linked to literacy. There's going to be reading, content area reading, and there's going to be writing involved in this. Okay, if you launch the lesson by clicking in the middle of your lesson, you're going to see that it's organized with your pages and then a final assignment. And so they're going to be multimedia. It's going to be self-paced. There are going to be multimedia elements in there. There are some games in some of these, so there are some fun elements. There are a lot of very nice but very short videos for them to watch. And there's always a little bit of writing in this, sometimes a little more than a little bit. So a little bit of reading on that first page, and then we click Next. Okay, and we have the first video, which I'm not going to actually launch the video, but I'll show you that if you click on View, you'd get the video. So students would watch the video, okay, and then they would move on to the next part, and then there would be, activities for them to begin doing. And here I think I have a goals page and some vocabulary for them to work on. So they're working on making inferences as they read. Okay, so when I get to the fifth frame here, there's an opportunity for me to do some writing. So when the students save their notes, they get a URL that they can then either email to you, or if you're going to use your Blackboard, you could have them copy and paste that URL into the assignment in Blackboard and turn it into you that way. So this would be a way, and actually you could put in Blackboard the link to this lesson that you wanted them to do, so they went right there, did the lesson, and then turned in the assignment. So your Blackboard's going to be a very nice complement to this tool. Okay. All right, well we're going to move on because we've got lots to do. I'm going to go ahead and close this and go back to the website. Okay, would you take a moment to look at some of the other, look at least one, and just choose it by the topic. All of these have been, as I mentioned, very carefully selected for you, so I think it's good stuff. And get a sense of what is there. And I'm going to come around while you're doing that and answer questions. Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much about something I've been struggling with mentally.
Mm-hmm.
These are staying in school because we had assigned books before, and it was a disaster. They're going to take them home, they were broken, they were charged, they didn't bring them, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So they're turning all their guns in and they're keeping it on here. There's nothing to take behind. What is that paper, that document, or that something, and when the parents come and say, well, it's their homework, or they're doing where the just to get. How do you answer? Like, how do you give them something to take and they're not really to do?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
Because mentally, I've been like struggling with it for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're in this transition period. You know, I mean, one answer would be that students start keeping their work electronically. You know, so in Blackboard, for instance,
I do a lot of Blackboard.
Okay, anything that the student turns in can be opened up in Blackboard. And so if the parent has the Blackboard login to be able to view the work now, if they don't have internet access, right? So, you know, at parent-teacher conference time, you can certainly pull up the assignments and open each one of them and look at them together. But, you know, I think until such time that everybody has access, we're going to struggle a little bit with that. Now, they can print these when they get done, so they can print them and turn them in as well.
So perhaps if they've sent me stuff, then I can open theirs and just send it to the printer down the way, and then once everything's finished.
Or if students have access to the print queue, they could print in class when they're finished, when they're ready to turn it in.
There's maybe we could add this or something to where.
Sure, or you have to have permission to print, or, you know, something like that. Yeah, I know that the printer ink becomes a big issue. Sure. Yep. Right. Right. I know, it's the devil's in the little details about implementing this, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, okay, so coming back up here, and so you can click on launch. Oh, okay. And then I'll use your next button to see each of the activities. And then if there's something to open up over here, I don't see a view button, so that may be just a picture there. So sometimes there's just a picture, an illustration, and sometimes there's a little bit more than that. Are you guys doing any questions over here? Everybody doing good? Okay.
It's not letting me change it to see what's open.
Seth's brother.
Seth is there too.
Oh, I see Seth, yeah, so this is brother next door.
Okay.
I don't know, this is not happening.
It looks like all of Alicia's kids are in there.
If you go back to
Ryan is
there, see how that's the only thing.
Okay, let's go back to cross-curricular tools, and let's look at some tools that all of us would be able to use. I hope that you will continue to explore the tools that are specific to your content area. Some of the tools have lessons in them. Many of them have interactives, videos, different things that you can use as you're building lessons for your students. So I think there are some exciting resources there. Okay, so our first category, and perhaps not the most crazy interesting category, but an important one nevertheless, is tools for research and investigation. How many of you have used WebQuest in the past? Okay, just a couple people. Did you use the WebQuest as a student or as a teacher or both? As a teacher? Okay.
I think I did them both, but first I thought you were asking me, did I go through it as a, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
did I click through theirs?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, recently
And-
I did both.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So one of the advantages of a WebQuest is that it's a way to make internet work, internet research very efficient for students. Because what we find is that when we tell students to go out and search for something, that sometimes they, yeah, I can see by your face, they spin their wheels and a lot of time is wasted. And when they finally find the really good stuff, all your time is up. And time is just too precious. So with a WebQuest, it's a framework that allows us to put good internet resources in front of students and still give them some control of their learning, where they're investigating, they're going to these sites, and they're discovering things and exploring things. A really good WebQuest will have a good task, and a really good task is an authentic task. So for instance, one of the examples that I use with my pre-service teachers is a Going Green in the 8th grade WebQuest. And so the task in the WebQuest is that the students are going to create a campaign to raise awareness in their school about ways that they could recycle and take better care of the earth. So they're going to investigate how do you start a recycling program. They're going to investigate what kinds of things can be recycled. There's a business end of it and all of that as well. So there's research for them to do, and there's real genuine work for them to do. And then the product becomes the posters that they create, the brochures, the public awareness announcements that they create with podcasts. So those are the kinds of things that are demonstrations of their learning. So WebQuests are pretty nice frameworks for using the internet for research. So let's take a quick peek. We're going to use Quest Garden. And if you click on Quest Garden, you're going to see it. Now, we did have some trouble. Let me show this one to you. Let's not all do it, because we did have some trouble with the wireness not being able to support our multiple requests. But if we use the curriculum by grade level, and so let's say that we need a WebQuest for mathematics. I'm going to select math, and we're going to select the 6 to 8 grade band and click on search. Okay, so it says it found 2,188 WebQuests. Okay, and it's going to put the most recent ones on top. Okay, the Pythagorean theorem, its history and applicability, developing understanding of statistical variability, the most dynamic landscape design sounds interesting, a bedroom makeover, vacations. Okay, so if one of these looks good to us, let's click on how many M&Ms. Then we go into it. And so this is the format that a WebQuest has. As an introduction, that's the hook. There's a task. That's the authentic project that the students are engaged in. The process is how they're going to get there. Evaluation is a rubric usually to evaluate the success of the project that they built. And then a conclusion, which kind of takes them into next steps. So they're all set up this way. Okay, so I would invite you, we'll look at one more. I'm not sure how Underground Railroad got in with math, but that's interesting. So, they're going to look a little bit different, but you're going to see those same components: an introduction, the task, the process. So the process gives us the steps, for going through the WebQuest. And you can embed the media that they need in it. So, teachers design these, and that's how, these all got out on the internet. But you can start by just searching and mining what's already there, And if you find web quests that you can use, then you can, they're ready there for you to use. But in Google Sites, and I know some of you are interested in using that, there's a nice template for building a web quest, and that's what I have my students use when they build their web quests. Okay, so we're going to move along here. I'm going to make this fast and furious. Okay, I've got a link to top 10 research tools for students. We're going to skip over that, but that's something you might want to go back to. Boolify, let's do that together because that's a lot of fun. You've heard of Boolean searches, right? And that's where you put the operators in and you refine your search so you get a better search result. So and, not, and or are the typical Boolean operators. And you drag these over into your workspace if you want to use them. So you can use a word or phrase or an exact word or phrase. So I'm going to use a word or phrase, drag it over into the workspace. And I'm going to put inventors. Okay. And then if you want to use and, you simply just drag word or phrase over again. Okay. So I'm going to drag that over again. So I want inventors and women. And I also want 20th century. Okay, and when I'm ready, when I have this all the way, that I want it, I could put not in there. I could say not European or not, I could define it a little bit more. But I'm going to press enter. And if I scroll down, I get a filtered search, so it's a safe search. And some of my hits are famous women inventors of the modern era, great women inventors, inventive thinking and creativity, the top 10 things that women invented. So this looks like a pretty successful search. So that's a way to have your students using the internet for research and to get a little bit better result. And then, of course, we hope that this would transfer, that they'd know that they can then use those Boolean operators in their own search argument to do a search using something else. And that something else might be something like Google Scholar. So everybody knows about Google, but you may not know about Google Scholar. When you use Google Scholar, you're going to get published articles, you're going to get research on a topic. So it's a way to kind of elevate the search if you've got students doing a research paper. So better than just a straight out Google search. Okay, this is kind of switching it up a little bit, and it might not be something that you would think about being in the category of research, but there are tools called timeline generators, and I think a lot of us use timelines, just using big strips of paper to do that, and that's certainly a fine way to do it. But with an online timeline generator, we can add some multimedia elements to it. So I've put 3 in here. There are others. Another one that you could consider is Dippity. A lot of people like that one as well. The first one, Read, Write, and Think, I think we can go ahead and try together. The other 2 I think are excellent and give you a little more bells and whistles than this one does, but you also have to be a little bit cautious when you use them. For instance, Time Glider, I think the featured the other day was Britney Spears timeline. So, there may be some things that are not as, school specific as you would want them to be on those others. But Read, Write, Think is definitely always going to be safe for school, so it's a good one to use. Okay, so the date, the time, the event, these are just examples, so you can click on those and see that there are 3 basic ways to organize any timeline. Okay, and when you're ready to build your timeline, you put your name in, and students would do this too. Okay, so does anybody know the #1 Detective Agency series, the books? That's my newest love. I just cannot stop reading those books. They're really, really good. It's a private detective who's set up the #1 ladies detective agency in Botswana, Africa. And she is just a really cool, smart lady, and she's solving mysteries and crimes. And so there's a whole series of these books, and I can't put them down. They're really exciting. So I'm going to do a character timeline. All right, so when you put your topic in, you click on Start. All right, then you've got your timeline here, and you can start at the end if you want. You can start down here, okay? Start wherever you like, but you click and you're going to put your label in. So actually, I want to start at the beginning. So go ahead and try this. While I'm doing it up here, you try yours. So I'm going to put 1968, birth of Precious. Okay, and then you can add an image to it. I'm going to add an image. And say OK. And then the check mark will place your, and then you can move it wherever you want it to be. So if you want it down here or up here. And then when you're ready to do your next one, you just click and you repeat that. So it's a simple way for students to put together a timeline. So certainly in social studies, there's a lot of applicability to timelines. Also in language arts, we can do the plot of a story. We can do the follow a character, one character throughout the story. We can look at one piece of the story. We can do a setting timeline. How does the setting change throughout the piece? Okay, and when we're done, we click on Finish. Actually, let's go ahead and close that. And I'm not really done, but if I finish, then I can save my draft and come back to it. I can save my final. I can email my work to my teacher, or I can print out my work. So it's a nice little timeline generator, pretty easy for students to use. Okay, NoteStar. You have to create an account to use NoteStar. When you create the account, and there's a nice tutorial in there, you set up a class with students and then you create projects inside of that. It's designed for research and really just exclusively for research. But once students have set up in NoteStar, they can take notes. And I put a link in here to part of the tutorial that tells you about taking notes. And here's what it would look like. You remember when we were learning to do, some of you are too young to remember this maybe, but we used the index cards. I remember teaching my students how to organize their index cards and rubber band them and do their works cited index cards and their note cards and then code them to one another. So this takes care of that for you by putting the citation and the note on the same card. So students will end up with then a collection of electronic note cards. And one of the things that I remember from doing the research projects with my students is that it was difficult to keep students on track with it. So I had to have mini deadlines. So I'd have to say you've got to have 15 note cards done by Friday. And then you've got to have 3 of your citations done by Tuesday. And so students can electronically keep track of these things, and we can still have those deadlines, but we can go in and see the progress for each student by looking at their note cards once we set up the class. So if you're doing research projects, it's a really, really handy tool. Yes?
I'm just imagining this unmanageable amount of different accounts for all of these students. And I'm wondering if you have any clues about how we would manage all of that.
Sure. One way that people will manage multiple accounts is to use the same kind of core password and then add like a number or a notation at the end. So for instance, if they had a password that they always used, Fido, then they might add NS for NoteStar to the end of it. So it might be Fido NS. So to use some kind of system. I've had students write down their passwords and then turn them into me, and I've kept them. And when they forget them, give them back. All of these accounts have places for them to ask for passwords to be reset. But you're right, it does start to get a little bit unmanageable.
And when you're talking about checking in on their progress, for example, the number of note cards,
No, in this system, you set it up and then you can see your students' work through it. Yeah, so you would not have to have them email. You know, and some of the, like the first one that we looked at, yes, they would have to email it to you. But again, if you're going to use Blackboard, you could have them turn it in Blackboard. And when I grade in Blackboard, if students are turning in a URL, then I've got my Blackboard window open and then the window where I'm viewing their work, and I just go back and forth, grade it, and then go on to the next student and use that same open window to look at it. But you know, as we think about this, one of the things that can easily happen is we can become overwhelmed by all of it. And so while today I'm going to throw a whole bunch of ideas and resources at you, you don't have to pick all of them. In fact, you should not. What you need to do maybe is leave with 1 or 2 good ideas for things that you could start with. And that's really enough. I mean, the people who are going to be in the race at the end of the race are the ones that are gonna just continue to move forward slow and steady. You certainly can get overwhelmed if you, and students can too, right? If you try to do too much all at once. So introduce one tool at a time and pick the right tool. It's my best advice for you, because it doesn't all have to happen overnight. Okay, so we're gonna leave research. No, we're not gonna leave research. We've got one more to look at, and that is Google Earth. Now, Google Earth is a free download, and one of the things that you may think is Google Earth. How's that too much different from Google Maps? Well, there are a lot of things in Google Earth that you just cannot get in Maps. One of those things is called the tour, and you can, as the teacher, set up and record your own tour. So if you want students to go to particular places, but a lot of the tours have been already created for you. So I'm going to show you a quick video that gives you a taste of the virtual tour.
With the new tour guide feature in Google Earth, it's easy to learn more about the places you're visiting and discover landmarks you may not already know about. Let's say you're visiting Rome, Italy, and you already know you want to check out the Colosseum. Open the tour guide feature by clicking on the tab located at the bottom of the screen. If you don't see the tour guide tab, you can set it to appear by going to the View menu and toggling on the tour guide option. Click on the thumbnail for the Colosseum, and you'll be automatically taken on a tour around the historic amphitheater. Information about the site you're touring, such as a brief description and interesting historical facts, will display along the top of the screen. The tour guide feature can also be a great resource for discovering unique locations you may have never heard about. After a tour finishes, close the tour player by pressing the X in the upper right-hand corner of the tour player, and the tour guide tab will automatically open again to show you other notable.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there and talk a little bit about what you have available to you when you're in Google Earth. You have these things called layers, okay, and the layers allow you to turn on different elements. So if we wanted to see the weather, we can turn on the weather layer. If we want to see landmarks, we can see the landmarks. If we want to see the roads, we can see that. Little note cards will pop up for us. Sometimes they have videos in them, sometimes they're still images, sometimes they're images and text. So there's a lot of research that students can do using Google Earth. So if you're an English language arts teacher and you want your students to go to the place where that story that you're reading is set, you can have them go there and tour. So you've got to get the full download to have all of this. The web-based one doesn't really do it. But the other thing you can do across the top, I don't know if you can see, it looks like Saturn because it's got the rings around it. But you can go to the sky, so you can look at constellations, you can go to the moon, you can go to Mars, you can go underwater. Now, not everything underwater has been digitally rendered, but a lot of things have. So you can go around the Great Barrier Reef, for instance, and you can look at it in 3D. So there's just so much, and that's the tour. So you would click on one of the tours across the bottom. So if you take your students to London and then you want to take them to Westminster, so you click on that and then you get a video tour. There's just so much in there. It's just really, really wonderful. It kind of opens up the whole whole world for them. Okay, so we're going to move on to thinking and planning tools. And the first one that we're going to look at is concept mapping. And we're going to have some, I put 3 of them in there, but we're going to use Popplet together. So go ahead and click on Popplet and let's have a little bit of fun. Okay, so there's a little tutorial that's going to tell you step by step what to do with Popplet. So the first step is to double click to make a Popplet, and there are 9 steps that they talk about there. Your next step is going to be to type in your Popplet, you know, so on and so forth. If you don't want to do this, you can close that and you can just learn by doing, right? So double click, okay, and put your main idea in here. I have a goldfish who's going to be 11 years old. We won him at the fair when my son was 3. And I think they can live to be 25. Yeah. So goldfish care is going to be my topic. And then when I click, I can do another offshoot from that. And what's fun here is that I can use text, certainly. I can change the color of this. Okay. But I can also draw inside of it. That's not a, here's my fish, right? And I can upload things. So I can upload still images, I can add an image, I can upload a YouTube video. So is YouTube blocked for you guys in school? Or is it open? Okay. So some teachers like to use this to map out a lesson for their students or to introduce it. So we can put our topic in there, goldfish care. But you might be able to do your lesson design. And here's a nice video. I looked at it before and it's good. So I've just put a video into one of my Popplets. So, and I can continue, adding Popplets. No, it wants me to finish this one before I add another one. Okay, to make my map, make my concept map. So Lucid Charts will give you a little more sophisticated chart, but there's a lot that you can do with Popplets. And when you're done with your Popplet, you do have to, again, we got to create an account. You will have to create an account. I actually have a Ziploc bag in my drawer with all of my accounts on index cards, and that's the way I keep track of it. And I know it's burdensome, but there's some services that help you with that too. Okay, so concept mapping is good. And I think I thought I had a link in there to some concept map lesson plans, but I will find that link and put it in there. Okay, so in mathematics, the steps for solving a problem can be a concept map. The cause and effect in social studies, a process in science, lots of ways that we can use concept mapping. Okay, I'm moving to the next category, bulletin boards and discussion boards. And Padlet is one. Has anyone used Padlet? Oh, great. Okay. It used to be called Wallwisher. So you, as the teacher, would need to set up an account, but your students don't need an account. So I've got a bulletin board. If you want to go ahead and follow that link, there's a bulletin board link. And the prompt is, which digital tools intrigue you? And how can you use the tool with your students in the upcoming school year? So if you'll double click to add a sticky, and let's see if we can get a few stickies on here.
That's what we did. We did this yesterday.
Did you good?
So, put in your name first, right?
Mm-hmm. And you can add more than one. And you can move yours after it's done if you want to. And you can also resize it.
How does it post? Like, you don't have to hit post or anything.
Nope.
You
Nope.
just type your name.
Just click out. Yeah, just click outside of it when you're done, and it'll post. But obviously you have to put something in.
shows it as the person's typing or just have to?
As they're typing, right?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
mine was showing up
because
as
I
I'm
kept trying to
typing,
hit,
but
like submit or enter. And I never did, but my comment showed
But
up.
it showed
so I was
up,
really
yeah.
confused.
Mine's got, no, that was sorry. You see me go.
But we don't have everybody else's on here, we only have it on the main one.
No, you should be able to see everybody else's, but you might need to refresh.
You see mine? Oh,
Yeah, because I'm seeing everybody else's.
are you?
How to record.
I don't know.
Cartoon generators could be another category too for composing and creating.
When you wait just a second, then it pops up on your margin.
Are you Lori? Okay.
I'm just gonna-
Okay, and I think somebody told me in the last session that you also used Today's Meet. Okay, so Today's Meet, likewise, no password for the students. So anytime you can create something that the students don't need to log in, that's always a good thing. So you set up your meeting room for the duration that you want it. So if it's only going to be an hour that you need it, you can set it to close in an hour. You can keep it open for up to a year. And here's one that I created for us. Share something you'd like to try the first week of school. And so you just simply click on Talk. You got to put your name in. And then you click on Talk.
On the last one, I couldn't see anybody's, but mine were up there. I couldn't see, like, he has everybody else's, but mine were never up there.
You probably just need to refresh your page, and then it will.
Every time I put in a name for this, it says it's not valid.
Are you putting spaces? You trying to put your first and last name?
Maybe. Okay, I see.
Okay, so I'm the only one who's talking on this so far, but they'll go in, they'll stack on top of one another. So the last one in will be, so you, okay, it's the second link that you needed. So yeah, so that would allow you to create your own room, but there's a second link in there, the conversation link. Yeah, is the one. Yeah.
Where's the conversation?
It's conversation.
And
It's
who gets included in the
oh,
conversation?
okay. So go back. Everybody who's got the link.
How'd I get the link? Just because it was a conversation? So, okay.
I embedded it. I embedded it in there. You know, what I used to build this site is just Google Sites, and that's free to anybody, nonprofit, and certainly educators fall into that category. So, you know, another thing that, you know, might be a next step, it's a great way to put resource collections together for your students. And so I just put the link to my Today's Meet meeting room. You could certainly put it in Blackboard, and that's probably the fastest way.
I had stepped out of the room, so
Okay,
I don't
so
think my previous page is the same as yours. It's
Oh,
okay.
okay. So you can't go back?
It's okay.
Okay.
If you go back to her page,
Yeah.
today's meet, you click on the conversation.
The second link. So I have used this for peer review, and you can create multiple rooms so that you've got small groups meeting in the room and giving feedback. So critical friend feedback, and you know, there's a whole nother conversation that we could have about how we help students to become good digital citizens and you know, behave responsibly and respectfully on the internet. But they typically rise to the occasion. I worked with some 7th and 8th graders last year, and they used it for peer review, and it worked out really well. So they were respectful and responsible in the environment. So it certainly can be done. Okay, so we've got no time left, but I want to show you one other cool thing. And there's some more stuff down here for you to look into. Glogster is a virtual poster. And we use posters a lot for projects, and posters are wonderful. But again, with an electronic poster, it can be a multimedia kind of experience. So the first link, Glogster, takes you to this tool, and you can sign up. Again, it's a sign up to use it. But I created an experiment poster that I want to share with you. You can create book report posters. You can create lab posters. There are all kinds of things that you can do, and they've got templates in there for you to use. So I started to fill in some of this. So the question for the experiment is, how is the development of mold affected by changes in temperature and light? And there's our methodology, and then I just uploaded pictures of bread and Ziplocs in there. Students will have their tablets with cameras. They could take pictures of their experiment in progress or take video of it and put that into the poster. So you can have multimedia elements in here. And then when students are done with it, they finish it, they publish it, and there's a URL to share of their final work. So you've got lots of options. Let those options be an encouragement to you, and not anything that scares you. One step at a time, and have fun with it. I will make sure that my email, there's a page on my site that's just got a little bio, and I'll make sure that my email address is in there as well. And you should not hesitate to email me if you have a question, if there's anything that I can help you with, or if you're looking for a resource that I don't have and I might have ideas for you. Thanks so much.